Hello, my name is Trisha Patnaik, and today I will talk about stem cell research and share its application in neurological disorders. You've probably heard about stem cells in the news and perhaps wondered if they might be able to help you or a loved one with a serious disease. You may wonder what stem cells are, how they are used to treat disease and injuries, and why they are subject of such a vigorous debate. So what are stem cells? Stem cells are the body's raw materials, cells from which all other cells have specialized functions. Under the right conditions in the body or in the lab, these stem cells can divide to form many other cells called daughter cells. These daughter cells can either become new cells through self-renewal or become specialized cells through differentiation with a more specific function, such as blood cells or even brain cells. No other cell in the body has the natural ability to generate a new cell type. Stem cells are like the body's master cells. So where do these stem cells come from? Researchers have discovered several sources of stem cells: embryonic stem cells, adult stem cells, and even adult cells that have been altered to have properties of embryonic stem cells called induced pluripotent stem cells, and also perinatal stem cells. So why is there interest in stem cells? Many researchers and doctors hope that stem cells will help increase understanding of how diseases occur. By watching stem cells mature into cells of the bones or even nerves, many researchers and doctors think that this will help in understanding how diseases and conditions develop. Many also think that stem cells will help generate healthy cells to replace disease cells through regenerative medicine. Because stem cells have the ability to become specific cells, they can be used to regenerate or repair diseased and damaged cells. The people might benefit if they suffer from spinal cord injuries, diabetes, or even Parkinson's disease. Stem cells even have the potential of growing into a new tissue used for transplants, and even test new drugs for safety and effectiveness in the body. There are many questions of ethics when it comes to stem cells. Some stem cells are extracted from embryos, human embryos, so many question whether this research is killing a human being. The National Institutes of Health has created guidelines for the use of stem cells in research and recommends the donations of embryonic stem cells. Stem cell classification. Stem cells exist both in embryos and adult cells. There are several steps of specialization. Developmental potency is reduced with each step, which means that a unipotent stem cell is not able to differentiate into as many types as a pluripotent one. Stem cells are divided into totipotent, pluripotent, multipotent, oligopotent, and unipotent. Unipotent stem cells are characterized by the narrowest differentiability capability, and it has the special property of dividing repeatedly. This stem cell makes it a very promising candidate for therapeutic use in regenerative diseases. The hypothesis for the research paper that I chose to research on is that if stem cells have the ability to regenerate, they can be used as a therapy for neurological disorders. Stem cells also act as the internal repair system for the body. They can replenish and form new cells that are unlimited as long as the organism is alive. Many neurological diseases are characterized by the loss of cells in response to the injury or progressive insult. These stem cells could therefore be useful to treat many of these disorders. There are many areas of controversy and agreement when it comes to the stem cells application in neurobiology. Many agree that stem cells exhibit many properties that are suited for replacing dying cells. But when it comes to the areas of controversy, many question what respect to the use of stem cells as therapy, how will it depend on the disorder and the mode of action? And how will the use of stem cells in the disease model be overlooked? Looking at the areas of controversy, we can see that even the federal government has a questioning whether or not they should fund stem cell research. As you can see, the demographics have been broken up into total men and women. You can see that many are optimistic about the use of stem cells and think that the federal government should fund. But there are still many people who think that stem cells should not be federally funded. So the objective for the paper that I researched focused mainly on adult-derived stem cells and the potential for embryonic and induced pluripotent stem cells in the neurological disorders. So based on further research, neurological disorders can be broken into two types. One type where specific cells are lost over time, such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. This results in a loss of neurons and cells fire abnormally. There is also a type where cells are not responding due to an acute injury, such as a stroke or a traumatic brain injury or a spinal cord injury. This can result in the loss of myelin sheaths that surround the neurons. So a little bit about the application in the treatment. Stem cells are used to replace a loss of cells or to repair cell functions. They are also used to improve localized environments where the survival of cells is crucial, and they can prevent additional cells from dying by releasing neurotrophic or anti-inflammatory factors. Stem cells also have the potential for treating many therapies and can be used in many therapeutic applications. Stem cells have been shown to be immune immature, which means that they show something called immunosuppression, which could prevent them from showing their beneficial effects in the human body. So an allogenic transfer has no adverse effects, but an analogous umbilical cord blood transplant is immune immature. So when you treat a variety of disorders, you have to look at the immune response. For example, Alzheimer's disease uses umbilical cord blood cells because it improves cognition, whereas any bone marrow-derived stem cells are easier to obtain and are considered to be autologous and better. When it comes to cell replacement with stem cells, it depends on the size and the complexity of the dying cell and how to project the development. Whether the newly transplanted cell will have the same developmental cells as the dying cell. There are many routes of administering stem cells to the body. For example, orally would be an unlikely beneficial for any cell transplantations, but they are useful in any drug that boosts the activity of stem cells. It can also be done intravenously, whether or not they need to enter the brain. They can also cross the blood-brain barrier, but this is not really necessary for any animal models. There can also be a use of multiple routes. There are identical benefits with respect to the motor source and the hippocampal cell preservation through either route. The size of the cell dose and the number of doses really matters. For animals and humans, multiple doses may be a good option. Multiple transplantations are better than a single transplantation. With allogenic transplants, a ready supply of cells are available for the transplant, but with autologous supply, cells extracted and cultured need optimal time, otherwise it could lead to concerning results. There was also research done on whether stem cells should go alone with other cells or combined with other neurotrophic factors. So co-translation of embryonic cells and bone marrow cells in the spinal cord injury can reduce the incidence of tumor formation in the body. Achieved by the bone marrow cells, they can induce embryonic stem cells to differentiate into neurolineage due to the neurotrophic factor secretion. There are no adverse effects with this transplantation. Mode of action. The secretion of growth factors and the ability to modulate pro-inflammatory signals shown by the number of different types of stem cells. This could mean that the transplantation of more than one type of stem cell could be most beneficial. One disadvantage of using non-neural stem cells in its application to neurological disorders is that they have the ability to differentiate in any other non-neural cell types, which could lead to cancerous tissues in the body. The genetically manipulated stem cells can become a killer cell based on this transformation. One possible therapy could be devised for the treatment of these cancers. If this isn't tightly regulated, then cells can be cancerous and continue to kill the wrong cells in the body, instead of providing a therapy for these neurological disorders. There are few clinical trials that are using embryonic stem cells for treatment based on neurological disorders. The majority revolves around using umbilical cord and bone marrow-derived stem cells. Most of the adult stem cells are autologous transplants, and despite the number of adult stem cells and clinical trials, none have led to actual treatments. Trials are still going on and completed without any data. So here is a table that shows the most recent clinical trials and what cell types were used. As you can see that many adult stem cells haven't been used. All of these are embryonic derived stem cells. Now, there are many other uses for stem cells in neurological disorders. Stem cells can be used to generate model systems that can help with cortical or hippocampal slices. They can be used to explore normal development and drug treatments for neurodegenerative disorders. They can also be used to induce pluripotent stem cells for modeling diseases and performing drug screenings and searching for disease biomarkers that can help in tracking if anyone has a neurological disease before they are even born. And genetically modified stem cells can also show promise in correcting genetical errors, like genetically based diseases, and investigating cell therapies that can use these allogenic cells that do not process the mutation. So in conclusion, stem cell research has a very important role in playing for the treatment of neurological disorders. The use of genetically modified stem cells can either show a promise in correcting genetical errors or enhancing favorable outcomes in patients. Induced pluripotent stem cells could prove to be a valuable tool in modeling diseases and disorders and even screening possible treatments. The results of a number of these clinical trials for neural stem cells from embryonic sources are awaited with great anticipation. Thank you.